The number appears on a Tuesday, not a Friday, not a milestone birthday, not some morning you circled months ago on a calendar. A Tuesday. You are sitting in the same chair you always sit in, same apartment, same coffee going cold on the same side table, same city sounds bleeding through the window. Nothing about the room has changed, but the number on the screen reads $1 million. You read it left to right, then right to left. You close the app, reopen it. Still there. 7 digits, comma in the right place. The balance sitting underneath your name like it belongs there. You put the phone face down on the table. You sit very still. The first thing you feel is not joy, not relief, not the rush you spent years imagining. What you feel is silence. Deep, disorienting, total. Because there is no one to call. Not because you are alone. You have people. Parents who love you. Siblings who know your whole history. Friends who have been there since before you were anyone worth knowing. But there is no one to call because there is no one in your life who has a reference point for this moment. You would have to explain what the number means before you could celebrate it. You would have to translate it into a language your family has never spoken. And somehow, that feels worse than saying nothing. So you sit in the quiet. You are the first. Think about what that word actually carries. Your grandfather worked the same job for 31 years. He retired with a pension that covered the basics and called it a life well built. He died with $4,000 in a savings account and considered himself a man who had done right by his family. By his own measure, he had. He fed people. He stayed. He never missed a shift. Nobody showed him anything else existed. You cannot follow a map that nobody drew. Your grandmother kept cash in an envelope tucked inside a Bible on the second shelf. Not out of faith, out of distrust. Banks made her nervous in a way she could never fully explain. The envelope held $340 when she passed. You found it while clearing out her kitchen. You stood there, holding $340 in a dead woman's handwriting, and understood something about inherited fear that no book had ever managed to explain. Fear does not announce itself. It becomes the atmosphere. You breathe it in long enough, and it starts to feel like air. Your father earned a paycheck for 28 years and never once invested a dollar of it. Not carelessness. The concept never entered his world. The people around him did not invest. The neighborhood did not invest. The conversation did not exist inside any house he ever lived in. He did what the people around him did. He survived. Month to month. Year to year. Getting by. Staying afloat. Doing well enough. His ceiling became the ceiling. And now you are here. $1 million. Real. Documented. Yours. Not inherited. Not lucky. Not an accident. You are not just the first in your immediate family. You are the first in the entire recorded line. However far back it goes, labor, survival, poverty, making do, this number has never appeared. Not once. Not under any name your family has ever carried. Until tonight. On a Tuesday. In a quiet room. With a phone face down on a table. You do not tell anyone. Not that night. Not for weeks. This surprises you. You imagined this day differently. You thought it would feel like a rival. You thought you would want to share it the moment it happened. Call someone immediately. Let it out. You imagined someone on the other end who would understand exactly what this cost and what it means. But you open your mother's contact and stare at her last message. She sent a photo of a confusing utility bill asking if something looked wrong. You close the thread. How do you put this number into that conversation? Her entire relationship with money has been defensive. 3 decades of quietly bracing for the next thing to go wrong. The number would not land as good news. It would land as anxiety. Questions about whether it is safe, whether someone could take it, whether you should move it somewhere more protected. She would be proud, genuinely, completely proud. But the pride would arrive wrapped in worry, and you do not have the energy to unwrap all of that tonight. You close the phone. The silence is not emptiness. It is weight. You are holding something that has no container in the world you came from, and you need time before you try to fit it into one. 3 weeks later, you drive home for Sunday dinner. Everything is exactly the same. The creak on the third step, the smell, fabric softener, and the specific warmth of a house that has absorbed the same family for decades. The television in the corner that nobody is watching. Your father at the head of the table. Your mother moving between the kitchen and the dining room with the quiet efficiency of someone who has made this exact trip 10,000 times. You sit down and eat the same food you have eaten at this table your whole life. Your father talks about work. Your mother mentions the neighbor. Your brother says something about his kids that makes everyone laugh. Warm, normal, unchanged. And you sit there with $1 million compounding quietly in an account somewhere while you pass the bread. You are transmitting on a frequency nobody in this room can receive. Not because they are not intelligent, not because they do not love you, but because the vocabulary for what has happened to you does not exist inside these walls. The frame of reference has never been built here. You could say the number out loud right now, and it would land like a sentence in a language nobody present has ever heard. Everyone would nod. Nobody would know what you just said. So you don't. You help clear the dishes. You make your mother laugh. You hug your father on the way out and hold it 1 second longer than usual. On the drive home, you sit with something you cannot name cleanly. It is not loneliness. It is more specific. The particular ache of having crossed a line that the people you love most cannot cross with you. Of standing somewhere entirely new and looking back at the distance and understanding it will only grow from here. You are still the person who grew up in that house. You are also someone that house was never built to produce. Both of those things are true simultaneously, and there is no comfortable position from which to hold them both. Word travels without you sending it anywhere. Not the number, just the general sense that something has shifted. You change nothing visible. Same car, same clothes, same places. But something in the way you carry yourself has changed, and people who know you closely enough can feel it, even if they cannot name it. Your cousin calls in February. He has a business idea and needs $8,000 to get it started. He explains it for 11 minutes. You listen to every minute of it. The idea is not really the point. The call is the point. You are now the person in the family that people call. Quietly, without announcement. You became the number at the end of the sentence without anyone making a formal decision. You say no, carefully, warmly, with a real explanation. The anger comes 3 days later in a group message. A comment about people who forget where they came from. About family being present when things were difficult. You read it. You do not respond. You sit with the specific texture of this, that protecting your own money, drawing your own boundary, making your own decision about your own account can be publicly framed as abandonment. That the first person in the family to build something real now has to defend the building from people inside the walls. You knew this was coming. You had read enough to know it was coming. Knowing does not make it any lighter. This is the cost nobody covers. The financial advisor did not have a session for this. There is a birthday dinner for your father. A restaurant, nicer than the usual. Everyone orders carefully. You watch your mother's eyes move to the right side of the menu before she decides what to get. You have watched her do this your entire life. The quiet internal arithmetic, the invisible ceiling on what is permissible. She has been doing it so long she does not notice anymore. It is just how restaurants work in her understanding of the world. You take the bill before it reaches the center of the table. Your uncle makes a joke about you being the rich one now. Everyone laughs, including you. But underneath the joke is a renegotiation happening in real time. You are no longer simply one of them. You are becoming something adjacent, something that picks up checks, something people glance toward when money enters the conversation. You are still family. You are also slowly becoming a role. On the drive home, you think about your grandfather, the $4,000, the 31 years, the pension, the life he called enough. He was not wrong by his own measure, but his ceiling became his children's ceiling, and their ceiling almost became yours. You broke it. Breaking a ceiling sounds triumphant from a distance. From the inside, it is mostly quiet and disorienting. Nobody prepares the other side for you. Nobody warns you about the gap that grows between you and the people you love when you stop living inside the same financial reality as them. The gap is nobody's fault. It is just the distance between different lives. And once you can see it, you cannot return to not seeing it. You build a structure. 18 months of expenses sitting liquid and untouched. The rest deployed. Total market index, international exposure, a conservative allocation that lets you sleep through the quarters when markets move against you. Automated. Running without your daily attention. You rebalance 4 times a year and otherwise leave it alone. Then you do the thing you decided to do the same night the number appeared on the screen. You call your parents' mortgage lender. You get the full payoff figure. You wire the funds. Then you call your parents and tell them it is done. Your mother is quiet for a long time. Your father says, "You didn't have to do that." You say, "I know, I wanted to." He says nothing for almost a full minute. You can hear him breathing. You have heard your father's voice in every register across your entire life. Tired, proud, frustrated, soft. This is a register you have never heard before. Something between disbelief and a grief you cannot quite identify. The grief of a man who spent 30 years carrying a specific weight and just had it lifted, without warning, without ceremony, without being asked first. "Just be careful," he says finally. "Okay? Just be careful." He means the money. He means the world. He means everything sitting behind those 4 words that he does not have language for. You tell him you will. Nobody prepares you for the guilt. It arrives quietly and does not leave. Not dramatic guilt. Not the kind that announces itself. More like a low, persistent frequency humming underneath everything else. You order at a restaurant without checking the price and you feel it. You choose the seat you actually want on a flight and you feel it. You wake up on a Monday morning with no financial fear, genuinely none, and you feel it. Because somewhere in your body, you still carry the memory of what it felt like before this. The month running out before the paycheck. The quiet arithmetic at the grocery store. The decisions that weren't really decisions because there was only one option you could actually afford. Your father worked physically harder than you by any honest measure. He just never had the map. He didn't know the map existed. The guilt is not about what you did. It is about the randomness of having found the right information at the right moment when others who deserved it equally never did. You do not perform the guilt. You do not apologize for the outcome. But the guilt keeps you honest. It keeps you tethered. It stops you from becoming someone who forgets the $340 in the envelope. It sits in the background of every good thing and reminds you where this started. You will keep it. It is part of the price of being first. Your niece is 7 years old. She thinks you are just the relative who shows up with good energy and occasionally the right present. She does not know that you opened an account in her name the month the number appeared. She does not know that what is sitting inside it will have been compounding for 11 years before she ever needs to think about it. She does not know that when she is 15, you are going to sit down with her and open a calculator and show her what happens to money when you leave it alone long enough. She does not know that the conversation is going to change something in the way she sees the world. the way it changed something in you. She will grow up inside a different relationship with money than you did. Not because she will be given everything. You will not do that. Comfort without friction builds nothing. But the vocabulary will exist in her world that never existed in yours. Someone in her family will have walked the road before her and left the path marked. She will not have to find the information alone at midnight after years of wondering why the math of her life never seemed to add up. She will just know. And when her children are born, they will grow up inside a different conversation than she did. And their children will never know what it feels like to stand in a dead woman's kitchen, holding $340 and understanding for the first time that fear can be inherited. That is the thing you are actually building. Not the balance, not the number on the screen, the knowledge, the proof that someone from this family arrived here and left the door open on the way through. You are building a floor for people who have not been born yet. That was always what this was for. That was always the whole point. Your grandfather kept $4,000 in a savings account and called it enough. He was doing the best he could with the map he had. You found a different map. Someday your niece will sit with her own children and talk about money the way some other families do, without the low hum of fear underneath every sentence, without the arithmetic at the restaurant, without the envelope in the Bible. She will not know exactly why it feels natural to her. She will not know the name of the thing she never feels. You will know, because you are the reason she never has to feel it. $1 million on a Tuesday night. No soundtrack, no applause. No one in the room who fully understands what it took to get here or what it costs to stand here alone. Just you and the silence and the weight of being first. And somewhere behind you, a door you just made sure will never close again.